For as far back as I can remember, Africa has always been at my fingertips and Albuquerque in my heart. Daddy, all heartstrings and handiwork. Mama, famous for her vocal cords and open lungs. Some said I was born to break the sound barrier. Jackie Robinson of the cool. Son of an optometrist, I could always see the future. Son of a woman who never held her breath. This music and this blood was a cacophony of Indian drum circle drums and black gospel hymnals hum that would one day tickle a symphony. But the day the music died, I was only 4 years old, orphaned to a world that made it difficult to play anymore. But Edith English was a caterer more than a grandmother. She was a godsend, and even if musical genius wasn't on the menu, she knew how to make a man a masterpiece from scratch, how to improvise a family, and it was in that kitchen that I really learned how to cook. I'd be lying if I told you that anyone except my Aunt Laura knew that I'd one day be famous for bringing together jazz and classical in one genre, just like the black and white keys on a piano. But my very first lesson was the blues, a cappella. And a few years after my parents died, Aunt Laura started me on lessons. About the same time I started at Eugene Field Elementary, then Lincoln Junior High School, then Albuquerque High, class of 38. But it was in high school that the blues finally gave me a break. Started my own swing band at a time when black students still weren't allowed to go to the high school dance. Back when black faces still weren't allowed in the yearbook. But I still refused the blues and graduated to Blue Up. Knew Newsweek would one day put me in the same sentence as Ellington, Mingus, Russell, and Monk. That my classmates of all colors who never saw me grace a yearbook couldn't miss me on national television and newspaper covers. It ain't nothing but the bridge in these bones. Chose cool over cold. From the school of Count Basie, Diz Bird, ultimately became a Lobo, went to UNM to learn some new notes, Bach, Mozart, Haydn. I became classically trained in fugue, episode, toccata, immersed myself in a brand new language like I was going for Baroque. Like I already knew what I was doing. Like Afrofuturism ahead of its time. Heard the jazz purists who said my music is not quite, and the classical critics who said my music is not yet. But I was used to being in between, holding everything and everyone together until I found myself alone in the middle of World War II. Played music there too. Met a drummer boy in the music branch that would help me found MJQ. And in 45, I came home to the life of the 45s. To New York City to join Dizzy Gillespie's tribe, to tour Europe and arrange a few tunes for Miles, to go on tour with Ella for a little while. But I saw a future beyond big band and bop where they traded zoot suits for tuxedos and jazz clubs for concert halls. Saw compositions mingle with improvisations, a collection of solos under one groove where the composers pose and the players play. So Kenny, Percy, Milton, I became the modern jazz quartet. 22 years of family, brothers, before I fell in love with the Yugoslavian harpsichordist and gave birth to Nina and Sasha Alexander, before I bought Mirjana that castle in the south of France, before being optioned for AT&T commercials, before the 7 years it took to finally finish Django, before my agent was the husband of Diane Carroll, before I scored Halle Belafonte's Odds Against Tomorrow, and even after then, when Harry came to see me, conduct a 30-piece orchestra, before a 23-year stint as the musical director of the Monterey Jazz Fest, before becoming the president of Atlantic Records, and before all the rest, I was a New Mexican. 1971, performing with the Albuquerque Symphony Orchestra in memoriam of my UNM piano teacher Walter Keller at Pope Joy Hall. After I hadn't seen him in 20 years, ran into him in Barcelona a month before he died. 1957, the special concert I held in Carlisle Gym for my grandma, English, the woman who raised me on a steady diet of mixed blood and confidence, at home anywhere and everywhere in between, when behind the wheel of the piano, all the way from Broadway to I-25, they said I was a natural. I said I was a native. My compositions a blank mesa, treble clefs and petroglyphs crossed the page, standing out like a yucca in my penguin's best. Sore thumb on Kennedy Center and Carnegie Hall stages like a one-note samba, just like us. Born mix and masa, Randoroyo y Verde Vendome, Christmas round midnight, round the way, round here, just me, and this gift under the Lewis family tree. At 7:21, Walter southeast.